In this video we're going to look at the problems of exposure and how to fix them by combining different versions together using Photoshop elements. This raw file has got a burnt out sky here, you've got blown highlights, but because it's raw we can restore the detail there, and we can also create different versions of the image to expose for these rather blandly lit cylinders and this drab looking crate here. So what we'll do is I'll show you how to create 3 different versions and then use the magic extractor to select the various elements, and we can then fine-tune them using levels adjustment layers. But let's kick off with our source image. So let's start with the sky. I'm just thinking about sky, I'm ignoring all of the other objects, and I'm going to create a much more interesting looking sky. Well, let's start off with recovering those highlights. So just drag recover to the right and you can see it's darkening the highlights there and bringing more detail into the clouds. You can try bringing the exposure down a wee bit more as well, taking it down a little bit there, and you've got a lot more detail now in the clouds. Now let's just whack up vibrance to give these clouds and the sky much more colour. Don't worry about the fact that this is looking very dull in the foreground. We're just thinking about the sky, that's all you want to worry about. So vibrance is a good way of increasing natural looking colours. If there were any skin tones in the image, they would not be all glowing red and spoiling the shot. But you can also bump up saturation a little bit too. Okay, so that's a lot better now for my sky. It's much more dramatic as well. And I can open the image up in Photoshop Elements itself. So, click Open Image. And what we'll do is we'll save this as an exposure just for sky. And what you need to do is just save this as sky by going to File, Save As, and then let's call it Sky Layer. And that enables you to, let's just pop that in like so. That enables you to then open up your original raw file again by going to File, Open Recent, Expose Before.dng, that was our original one. And here it is. Now this time let's just click on Default to go back to where we were before. I'm going to leave the vibrance and saturation increased because I want to create more dramatic colours, but this time I want to expose for these cylinders. So they look a little bit underexposed, don't they? Let's just open up the aperture of the camera in a sense, because you are restoring more information there. And you could also fill them in too with fill light. That just opens up the ambient mid-tone light a little bit more. And maybe even increase the contrast a little by pushing up the blacks, so we've got these nice lines appearing now and being more emphasized. So that's this section exposed for. Let's click Open Image. I'm just worrying about these cylinders, nothing else. So let's save this as Cylinder Layer. I don't need to include it in the organizer. And finally, as you can see, the sky's all burnt out, but that's not a problem. We've got a sky layer to play with later. Let's go back to the recently edited file, exposebefore.dng. That's a digital negative file, so that's a raw file. And we can then go to Default and start thinking about brightening up this particular area here and exposing for this big crate. So I'm going to increase the exposure until I'm happy. Pop up some fill as well. Not too much though, I don't want to burn it out. Try increasing the blacks a little bit, and that's a lot more vibrant now. So click Open Image, and we'll call this one Crate. So we have 3 layers, and this is the crate layer. Okay, so we have 3 layers with different exposures. This one's exposing for the crate, so you've got burnt out sky there. This one's exposing for the sky, so you've got underexposed foreground elements. And this one's got some nice contrasting cylinders. So let's pop back to the sky, and we'll use the magic extraction tool to select the sky and separate it from the other elements. So let's go to the sky layer and choose the magic extractor to select the sky. And this is the tool we want. This will add on the foreground brush tool, there's a little plus sign, it will add to the area we want to keep. So let's just click and drag. You can do little dots as well if you're feeling lazy, just to make sure you include everything that you need. If you accidentally, click on something you don't want to include, then you rub it out with this tool here. And you can change the brush size, of course, using the brush option in the tools here. So let's just go back to quickly scribble there. So that's what we're going to keep. The area we're going to lose is this one here, which is the background. So just scribble with the background brush, especially around the edges of the areas that you don't want to include in this initial selection. Hit preview to see what it's going to do. And if you're happy with the selection, that's not too bad, we can go with that. Then click OK. And it makes a selection based on the extraction that you've chosen.